Inclusive Careers at XPS. Who is XPS Group?
Thanks, Mohammed. So at XPS Group, everything we do is centred around helping members of the pension schemes that we work on to receive the best outcomes and security in retirement. We're actually the only UK pension specialist listed on the London Stock Exchange main market. So we have the flexibility to think and act differently. Just a few numbers for you guys. We have over 1,500 clients and we administer pensions to over 1 million members. And XPS itself is based across the UK, including Scotland and Northern Ireland. And basically, we advise on all things workplace pensions related. We help both trustees and employers run pension schemes for the benefit of both current and former employees. And we support scheme members in a way that's relevant, innovative, and easily digestible. Because I remember when I started at XPS, I didn't really know a lot about pensions, and I think that's the same for a lot of people. So, like I said, we tried to make things easily digestible for people. We're specialists in pensions, actuarial, and investment consultancy, as well as administration. And we provide a wide range of advisory services to trustees and sponsors of pension schemes. We offer a broad range of services, all aiming to achieve one thing, and that's to provide the best support possible to UK pensions arrangements. So that's one thing to note, we work purely within the UK. Of course, alongside the services we offer, we also have a huge team of people working to run the business in the background in our central services team. So hopefully, Mohammed, that's given people a bit of an overview with what we do.
Inclusion at XPS Group.
XPS has undertaken significant work and implemented a structured framework to create an inclusive environment within the business. We have a number of initiatives and policies in place to foster a culture of belonging where everyone feels valued, respected, and comfortable to be themselves. So, for example, we have a diversity and inclusion policy, which outlines our commitment and approach to promoting equality, diversity, and inclusion in XPS. We are a disability confident accredited employer, and we support all applicants throughout the recruitment process and provide reasonable adjustments where required. We have a large group of employees who have been trained as mental health allies, and each of them acts as a trusted colleague, an ambassador to employees who need support and guidance on their own mental health and well-being. XPS also offers a confidential employee assistance program, which provides professional counselling and wellness resources, not just for employees, but also their families. We offer flexibility for staff aiming to improve the work-life balance through our family-friendly policies such as parental leave, carers leave, adoption leave, fertility leave, neonatal, miscarriage, and menopause. And these are available to all employees, ensuring that we avoid gender stereotypes. XPS promotes a work-life balance and professional development plan with our hybrid working model and policy requiring employees to be in the office 1 day per week. And this has been welcomed by those with caring duties. We also, in October 2023, achieved menopause in the workplace accreditation. We have held training workshops for 330 line managers on how their actions impact others and how they should support colleagues, especially those with caring responsibilities or disabilities, whether visible or not. We have organised training on how to instigate and encourage team discussions about what's required for psychological safety. We also launched a safe space campaign, providing colleagues with a contact to report inappropriate behaviour, discrimination, or harassment in a confidential manner so appropriate action can be taken. XPS provides an inclusive performance management module for those involved in hiring and developing. We are signatories to the Women in Finance Charter. also have a gender equality plan, which includes a set of commitments and actions to promote gender equality. Evidence that inclusive culture has been embedded throughout the business is reflected in feedback from employees and clients. 99% of clients agree that we are collaborative in our approach and enjoy working with us, whilst 86% of clients say they would definitely recommend XPS or are likely to do so.
Flexible working at XPS Group.
So roles are often advertised in specific locations. However, there is flexibility to some degree, again, depending on people's circumstances and the business needs as well. So we say once a week to people. However, in reality, some people come in a lot more. Some people are home workers, whether that's the requirement of the role, or it could be that actually as a reasonable adjustment, that works better. I think what we have found over the past couple of years is that people do want to be in the office. So because you get more of a sense of like being in a team, and also what we tend to say is an induction, if people can come into the office, you kind of integrate a bit more as well, and obviously the support then is right on hand for you. But like I say, Mohammed, that can be very much depending on people's own circumstances and the role itself.
Careers at XPS Group.
So I'm pleased to say, Mohammed, there is more than that available. I mean, you can't get away from the fact that we are a pensions organisation, so that is at the heart of what we do. But we do offer a huge range of roles. And what I will say is I joined the organisation in 2019, and since during the period that I've been here, we've made a number of acquisitions, and we've grown as a business from around 400 or 500 people to, I think we're sat around 1,700 now. So it's a really fast moving, exciting business. And we genuinely put people at the heart of our business. During COVID, our CEOs started doing weekly audios, and they've continued those that go out once a week with business updates. And I always think they're testament to how much like the CEOs are prepared to make that time each week for everyone, so they can, send that communication directly to staff. Geoff mentioned earlier, we were delighted to be named in the Sunday Times Best Places to Work in the UK last year, which was wonderful. So looking at our people, we have over 200 people in central functions. So when I say central functions, that refers to roles such as IT. So our technology department has grown hugely over the years. We have IT service desk roles available. For those more technical, so a lot of IT security, that team's grown. We have human resources, of which I'm part of, so that includes recruitment, administration roles, and HR business partner roles, as well as learning and development. And also we have our employee engagement team, which includes internal communications. We have a lot of office administration, whether that's within our facilities area of the business. So for example, office managers and their support teams, whether that's reception or general administration. We have a large finance department, which covers everything from business partners to people paying expenses. We also have an external marketing team, and that covers everything from the website design to producing materials for clients, for example, and also working on our social media. We offer a huge amount of roles in our pensions administration teams. So those roles you will be working on everything pensions. But don't worry, like I said, when I came into this organisation, I really wasn't pension savvy, but now I've definitely learned a thing or two. We offer entry-level jobs to those roles that are more experienced as well. So like I said, you don't need to have a lot of pensions knowledge. We provide training, in-house and professional qualifications if you're coming in at entry level. We also have actuarial and investment teams who do recruit for a lot of experienced staff. However, we also offer graduate roles, and in recent years we've broadened that our early careers offer expands to apprenticeships, and we do those in pensions administration, actuarial and investment, and we also have our trustee governance department as well that offers those. And I should add on to that, Mohammed, that we do offer apprenticeships in different areas of the business as well. We have a big focus on learning and development at XPS, and it's very supportive for those that want to progress their career, in particular going on training courses and gaining professional qualifications. So hopefully that's given you a bit more of an insight into the different types of roles.
Apprenticeships at XPS.
One thing I will say is you can, when you're on our website, you can search specifically for graduate and apprenticeship opportunities. We do in terms of graduates, well, our big recruitment campaign is normally around the autumn time when we go out to advertise. So between September and November, and we aim to run assessments before Christmas. In terms of apprenticeships, we're advertising several at the moment, and they will be advertised until around mid-February, and then assessments are in March. And those are for actuarial and investment. In pensions administrations, we actually offer them throughout the year at the moment. So it's always worth checking in to see what roles are available. And we do have entry-level pensions administration roles as well that are advertised throughout the year that aren't necessarily advertised as an apprenticeship. However, you could express your interest in doing it if you're successful in those positions.
UK offices at XPS Group.
So we have in Scotland, we have Stirling, Perth and Edinburgh. We have an office in Belfast. We have offices in Leeds, Manchester. We have an office in Newcastle, which is predominantly around payrolling. And then I'm trying to remember my geography, which isn't the best. And then moving south, Middlesbrough, Birmingham, Bristol, Reading, where I'm based, so I remember that one, London, and as far down as Portsmouth, and
Guildford.
I knew there was another one.
Thriving with Dyslexia at XPS Group.
I'm Emma McAteer, and I have worked for XPS now for 12 years, and I'm an actuary. And I'm here to talk to you today as I'm extremely dyslexic. I'm going to give you a bit of background about myself and my disability, but also how XPS has helped me to manage this and how this has helped me progress in my job. I thought a good place to start would be with what the definition of dyslexia is. So the NHS defines dyslexia as a common learning difficulty that mainly causes problems with reading, writing, and spelling. But unlike other learning disabilities, intelligence isn't affected. It's estimated up to 1 in every 10 people in the UK have some degree of dyslexia. And dyslexia is a lifelong problem that can present challenges on a daily basis. But support is available to improve reading and writing skills and help those with the problem be successful at school and at work. So what dyslexia means to me and how does it affect me? So I was diagnosed with dyslexia at a very early age in primary school, and I got additional help with reading and writing and spelling, and got additional time in exams as my reading age and processing of information and questions is much lower than the average person. During my many years of study, I have developed many tricks and skills to help me deal with everyday life, both in work and at home. For example, being able to speak into WhatsApp for it to write a message for me or help me spell something that I'm really struggling with has been life-changing, and I use it on a daily basis. Every day is different and presents different challenges. Some weeks are harder than others, and when I'm tired, I find my dyslexia is much worse. In recent years, the stigmatism around dyslexia has really changed, and at times I've seen it promoted as a superpower. We are out-of-the-box thinkers and brilliant problem solvers, and that adds another dimension to a team within work and a new angle and way of thinking. It's all about turning your weakness into a strength. I think it's very important for an employer to understand the signs of dyslexia and how this might impact everyday work and job interviews. And the signs include reading and writing very slowly, confusing the order of letters and words, being confused by letters that look similar and writing letters in the wrong way, for example, B's and D's, have poor or inconsistent spelling, understanding information when told verbally, but having difficulty with information that's written down, finding it hard to carry out sequences of directions, and struggling with planning and organisation. It's very important for a person with dyslexia to be able to tell an employer upfront about their disability, so they can get the mechanisms put in place to ensure that they are on the same level playing field as everyone else. XPS has supported me in many ways. They've implemented supportive software. So I use software called Delegate, which is a tool where I speak to my computer and it writes what I ask it to. They've also given me access to ChatGPT, which has been extremely helpful over the last year to help me plan my emails and check for grammatical errors. I have a very supportive group of people around me at all levels who I can rely on to proofread emails, reports, and basically whatever I need. They constantly remind me about how good I am at my job and what my strengths are. And this is really important to me, especially when I'm having a bad dyslexic day. I've adapted my communication skills. I learned over about 4 or 5 years ago that one of my real strengths is that I'm a people person. So sometimes when I'm having difficulty with an email or writing a complex process and trying to explain this in words, I would just lift the phone and ring the client or the colleague and chat through what I want to say, and then maybe follow up with a slightly less complex email, which I think is usually better for everyone. Or if this isn't appropriate, I'll talk through an email or piece of work with a colleague to get some help and guidance on how to structure and present the work. XPS understands I need more time with certain projects and make sure I have this. I've also had individual calls with HR to assess what they think would be beneficial for me and discuss what they provided for other employees to see if this would also benefit me. I have a tailored work adjustment plan. And recently, XPS has also made me aware and helped me apply for access to work within DWP. So this is a grant that helps pay for practical support with your work and support to manage your mental health at work. It can also be used to pay for communicational support for job interviews. We need to start thinking of dyslexia as a superpower. And having someone with dyslexia on a team can bring a whole new level of thinking. And this can solve problems that others may not be able to do. It's definitely my unique selling point.
Workplace adjustments at XPS Group.
I remember it clearly actually applying for the job, and I made them aware up front, because if there is any sort of English sort of questions or things that I would need to process quite quickly, I do need extra time. And it was absolutely fine. I was able to get extra time. I think there was some online sort of assessments, which has probably changed now because it was a long time ago, but I got the additional time that I needed. Really was not hard at all. It was just literally a simple email to HR and they processed it and put it in place.
Workplace adjustments at XPS Group.
Absolutely. So during the application process, we make it clear that if any support is required, we can do that. We have a centralised recruitment team now, and we're always willing to help, whether it's on the phone or via email. So you can just let us know whether it's at application stage or further along in the process. We can provide any reasonable adjustments, and that can be anything from literally support with technology, applying in a different format, again providing materials in different formats, to just general assistance on the application process itself through to interviews.
Thriving with a hearing impairment.
So again, I'm Emily. I started with XPS in September of 2022, and I have a hearing impairment, which was discovered when I was 10 years old. So I used to watch telly out of the corner of my eye, and my mum took me to the doctors and they basically tested my hearing and said that 90% of my high frequency hearing is gone. So what that means is I can't hear high pitched sounds, so fire alarms, for example, baby cries, if the oven's beeping, things like that. And the reason why it affects me day to day is because there are those high pitched sounds within individual words. So if you were to say to me, let's go watch TV, I will hear, let's go watch TV, because that sound, that TCH, I can't hear it. So I rely a lot on lip reading for that reason. And so I was fitted with hearing aids when I was 10 years old and found it a bit of a struggle, being so young and trying to adapt to having this disability and being so different from people that were around me. And I've always been quite anxious about my disability. And my confidence is going up now, luckily, and I do have XPS to thank a lot for that, even though the short time that I've been with them. My manager has been incredibly supportive from day one. I mean, when I applied for XPS and I got a phone call to ask me to come in for the interview, I mentioned on the phone, I'm really sorry, I'm hard of hearing. If I ask you to repeat yourself, that's why, because I would always be a little bit anxious that people would think I'm not listening if I keep saying, sorry, what was that? But they were absolutely brilliant. My interview went really, really well, and obviously got the position. And I think it was the second day at XPS that I spoke to my manager about my hearing loss in more depth. And she was just like, what can we do? What do you need? And I had a specialist headset ordered for me, which cancels background noise, because that's a very big struggle for me. If there's a lot of noise going on in the background, even if I'm facing you, reading your lips, it's so difficult for me to focus and hear what's being said. So that was ordered and I had it the next day. I have a fire buddy in place. So if the fire alarm goes off, there is somebody on my team that is dedicated to come and find me before they leave the building. So whether I'm in the kitchen, the bathroom, wherever, they've got to come and get me before they leave the building. Which is really reassuring, because it's quite scary that fire alarm is so loud and I cannot hear it at all. My team know that I rely a lot on lip reading, and something that I've struggled with in the past with other jobs and things like that is phone calls. If it's not, my partner, my parent, somebody whose voice I'm familiar with, phone calls can be very difficult for me. I can't lip read, there's different accents, things that I'm not used to recognising those sounds. And I brought that up to my manager and my team, and they said, don't worry, you will take minimal phone calls, if any, and if you need any help, we're here. And I've always felt so supported, and knowing that I could just talk to them about it. And I think it was the first company that I really felt I could openly talk about my deafness and not feel like I was being judged or, looking for attention almost, or like extra help for reasons that, were not disability related. But yeah, so I've also joined the Disability and Neurodiversity Network. That was fairly recently, and I'm really, really pleased that I did. It was quite nerve-wracking for me, actually, as is me being here today. But my confidence has grown. I've had a lot of support from Geoff as well, and other members of the network. And I've written a blog about my disability and about it being an invisible disability and how difficult it is sometimes to have one, because myself, I can speak quite well. I've had experiences where I've gone to an audiologist to have my hearing tested, and I've said my hearing is quite bad, and they've kind of gone, okay, we'll see. And then they've tested my hearing and they've gone, oh wow, we weren't expecting to see that on the screen because you speak so well. And it just goes to show that there's so many different variations of disabilities, hearing loss, vision loss, all these things, that different people are capable of different things and need help with different things, and it's not always visible. And XPS have just been there for everything that I've needed. And yeah, I think it's probably one of the best decisions that I made, because with the network as well, I've never felt so seen, if that makes sense. I think it's so easy to fall into the background, especially in an office environment where you're different. Like if people are talking and I don't hear them and it goes over my head, and I've felt quite isolated a lot in the past, but my team know now, if they're speaking to me, come and tap me on the shoulder, make sure I'm looking at you, and they're all brilliant at doing that. My manager, again, so supportive. I had my annual assessment with her the other day and we had a good chat, and one of my goals that she's encouraged me to do is more with the Disability Network within my office. So we were talking about British Sign Language. I'm currently learning, and she would love me to do a sign language workshop, potentially in our office and maybe then XPS wide. So that's something I'm looking into, and it's overwhelming, the support I have to not only be myself and express my disability and how things are, but also to push it out there for others to know. And I think that's what makes XPS so different.
Top tips to apply for roles at XPS Group.
I think the most important thing is that what we want to achieve is we want to ensure that everyone feels comfortable throughout the application process. So I spoke earlier about if you need any support at application stage. I think my first point would be, do contact us. We are recruitment@xpsgroup.com. So quite straightforward. We have it on the website. You can contact one of the team and they'll be in touch. We can discuss via email or via phone. And that's if you've got any questions about the role, about the process. Like I said, my first tip would be, do ask, don't sit there just wondering. And that might apply to, as I mentioned, the job description, it might apply to the process itself, or maybe it's simply you just want to find out a bit more information about the role, and we can have confidential conversations as well. So if you, as a disabled person, wanted to have a confidential discussion about your disability and any support you might need in the workplace from the beginning, we can talk about that to say how we can support you and hopefully to reassure you. So that's the first part. My second piece of advice is always read the job description and then read it again and maybe read it a third time to make sure that you understand the role, and that's what the role entails, but also what the requirements of the role are. And linking on from that, be confident in your abilities. I know sometimes that's really difficult, but often, and there's a statistic out there that I can't remember, but women in particular won't apply to roles unless they tick every single box on the job description. And that really isn't necessarily the case. You think about your transferable skills and whether that's gained through employment or voluntary work that you do. And those are just as relevant as specific skills and knowledge that are directly relatable. So those transferable skills, don't ignore those. Make sure that your CV is an accurate reflection of your experience. And please, please don't be afraid to put on any career breaks. We will look at gaps in employment, but that definitely doesn't rule anyone out. People have breaks in employment for various reasons, and we will always take that into consideration, and it certainly wouldn't be a factor as to why we wouldn't take you forward. And I think it's just really to be very clear about how your experience, skills, knowledge match those requirements of the job. Like I said, bearing in mind anything that's transferable. Often you'll find our process just involves filling out basic details about yourself, name and contact details, as well as uploading your CV. Some roles will have additional questions, and I'd say make sure on those things that you take your time answering them. Don't rush it. Have that thinking time before you submit anything, and ensure that you provide clear and relevant answers. In terms of disclosing your disability, in case you're wondering about that, you absolutely don't have to. Hopefully you are aware of that. It's your personal choice. We have the equal opportunities form that's available for everyone on our application process, and we do use that for monitoring, improving the process that we offer, and it's completely confidential and is only viewed by my team. Line managers don't have access to that. Like I said at the beginning, if you did want to disclose your disability, whether it's just to make us aware or if you have specific questions in how we can support you throughout the process, you can contact the recruitment team and have a confidential discussion.
XPS Disability Employee Network.
XPS has 7 employee-led networks, each of which aims to create a culture of belonging where everyone feels valued, respected, and comfortable to be themselves. And hopefully Emily and Emma's stories have reflected that. I am chair of the Disability and Neurodiversity Network, to give its full title, and that network provides a safe space for employees to have real, honest conversations on work-life experience and highlighting areas for improvement. It also creates a supportive environment and helps bring people together with its inclusive programme throughout the year of events, campaigns, and workshops, such as raising awareness of different types of disabilities, promoting accessibility and inclusion, and celebrating the achievements and contributions of disabled employees. Some examples of this would include that we've worked with the HR team to promote the ability for employees to record and discuss their disability or health condition and any reasonable adjustments which they may need. XPS has created a disability toolkit which provides information and guidance on disability etiquette, language, and support. And the Disability and Neurodiversity Network collaborates with other employee networks such as the LGBTQ+ network, the Women's Network, and the Multicultural Network to explore the intersectionality and diversity of disability. As far as the future is concerned, we would like to see the Disability and Neurodiversity Network grow and expand its reach and impact both within and outside of XPS. Some of our aspirations are to increase the membership and engagement with the network, to encourage more employees to share their stories and experiences in the way that Emma and Emily have, to further enhance the communication and collaboration with the XPS senior management and HR teams, continuing to influence the policies and practices which affect disabled and neurodiverse employees. We also want to develop the skills and confidence of the network members and provide them with opportunities for personal and professional development. And again, hopefully the stories that you've heard so far today back that up. We want to partner with external organisations and stakeholders such as disability charities, advocacy groups, and our clients to learn from their best practices and insights. And ultimately, what that should do is to raise the profile and reputation of XPS as a disability confident employer, and most importantly of all, enable us to attract and retain more diverse and talented employees.
Working part-time at XPS.
Often you'll find that all our adverts will state whether they are full or part-time. However, please don't be put off if something says full-time and that isn't something that's possible for you. You're welcome to apply for all roles and discuss your reasonable adjustment requirements with the hiring manager at interview. I think, as I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to have a confidential discussion before you actually apply, you can ring and speak to one of the recruitment team in advance to talk about those options. Admittedly, sometimes it does depend upon the business needs and the requirement as a role, but we would be open to discussions and explore what is possible for any such request.
Using access to work at XPS Group.
There's some really great transport links, but obviously don't forget as well about access to work. If you did want to come in, I believe they can provide support as well for commuting. So there are options. And like I said, we do offer home working roles as well. So I wouldn't want anyone to be put off, because we can discuss any reasons for not being able to commute, or perhaps to want to come into the office more frequently instead. So it very much depends upon your individual circumstances.
Flexible working at XPS Group.
And one of the other roles I have, I run a team responsible for our group risk employee benefits, and I'm based in Belfast, work from home some of the week and Belfast some of the week. My team is based in Birmingham, Reading, Swindon and Leeds, and we have regular meetings, obviously not in person. We maybe get together in person 2, 3, 4 times a year, where some of us will get on trains and automobiles to get together to collaborate and celebrate and socialize. But ultimately, that's an example of a team that operates very well indeed and functions very efficiently without needing to be physically present in an office together every day. Now, each case will be different, but I just would encourage everybody to keep an open mind and explore what opportunities are available within XPS.
Why work at XPS Group?
For me, I think that everything you've had here is genuine. We're not just ticking a box with anything that we've said. We really mean it. We're an organisation that lives our values. We want to do the right thing. We want to be helpful. And also we recognise how important, diverse talent can be and what individuals bring to the company.
Why work at XPS Group?
There's a genuine commitment from everybody from the top down within the business to make this a great place to work for everyone. Our values are: we are agile, ambitious, we are expert, we are helpful, and we do the right thing. And we live those values day in, day out. I think those are reflected in our employee survey scores and the feedback that we get from clients. So I think it's a huge opportunity for anyone with the ability and willingness to work hard to thrive at XPS.
Why work at XPS Group?
A main reason to check out XPS and apply would be to build confidence and be surrounded by a team, an entire company that only wants you to be confident and grow and accept you for who you are and how you work, and you don't get that everywhere. So that would be my one reason that the whole company will support you and get you to where you want to be.
Why work at XPS Group?
The culture set down from the very top in XPS is so important, and that is to be inclusive and for everyone to understand what their strengths and weaknesses are and to promote your strengths and just show how important you are to each member of your team and the group as a whole.
If you have a disability and need support with your career, join Evenbreak's Career Hive at hive.evenbreak.co.uk. Evenbreak, talent first.